This is Preston. I'm building a mega tree. I got one of these holiday Coro kits with 16 strings and just spent the last 2 nights putting these lights on with these zip ties here. That is a very time-intensive activity. Getting ready to weld this up, or welding up a custom bracket over here. I'm gonna put it on the 2nd story eave of my house, and I'm trying to figure that out. So I'm gonna finish welding this and dry fit it. Bracket looks like, all I did was I put some of the scrap metal together and I put on a couple welding tabs on top of each other. Seemed to work out pretty well. Next step after that dries is to get it all the way up there on the top of the house. There we have it, all the way at the top. It was kind of terrifying putting that up there, but you can see the bracket with the pin in it. Now I'm going to work on the base mounting. So I think I'm going to do this a bit differently than most people build these mega trees. Instead of making an outline of the perimeter and just kind of tying or staking in lights onto the perimeter, I'm going to build like a spider web type structure and then suspend that structure hopefully about 6 feet off the ground, something like that, so it kind of looks like a real tree, because you know, real Christmas trees, their branches don't generally go all the way to the ground. They come up a little bit off the bottom. So I'm going to go for that look, and I'm going to build this out of rebar. I'm going to do, I think, a 5-inch or a 5-foot radius. So I got 20-foot rebar chopped into 10. I'm going to chop them all again to 5 feet, and then put on welding tabs, I believe, to one end, so they can all be tied together and just kind of fan out. That way they'll be easy to store, because I can just collapse them and then fan them out again as I'm putting it up. And I'm not quite sure about the other end so that they're spaced evenly, but I'll deal with that next. It's up. We had a little help with some friends to put this thing up, but what I figured out after about having a week of this kind of floating around here, this bracket I made to kind of space things out easily while still being collapsible, it works pretty well. I definitely need to paint it again, but the you need something to hold the distance along the perimeter here. So what I did is I took some of this excess strap and put it horizontally and then zip tied it in place. So it's actually holding all of these together pretty well. It's only been out here for about a night and a half, but it seems to be going pretty well. I fired it up yesterday. We'll see what it looks tonight when it's actually running a routine. So the tree is looking pretty good, but I thought it'd be a little bit empty looking if it didn't have anything to go with it or maybe under it. So what I'm gonna do is I've taken a lot of this really kind of 1/2-inch stock, I believe, and I'm gonna make some presents that go underneath it. I'm just gonna make a bunch of rectangles, cut these to various lengths, throw them together. Hopefully it won't take me more than a few hours, we'll see, and then try to find some cheap Christmas lights to throw on top of it. Not looking too bad. I just kind of bulk cut everything. I had imagined them being a little bit bigger. I think the longest here is 3 feet, or they're about 3 feet. I'm kind of staggering them so that when I have these boxes for storage, I can kind of nest them in like Russian dolls and then just put them in storage without having to, you know, keep them all stacked up all year long. Let's see how they look when they tack them together. Here are the completed ends. I've welded 3 sides of each one of these joints. You'll notice I put these little legs on both the tops and the bottom, and I did that for a few reasons. The first is to keep the lights on the bottom side off the ground. I was thinking that, you know, if it does rain, having the lights wrapped around here and actually all the weight and the lights just kind of crushed up on the ground in a pool of water is probably bad news if that ever happens. So I left about 1/2 of an inch off the bottoms and the tops, just so that to kind of mitigate some of the risk of having a short from water. The other reason is that I'm planning to wrap LED lights around the boxes completely, and I was thinking that when I do that, if you wrap it like a ball of yarn, the light string can actually slide off the edge, and so I'm thinking this little leg on the top and the bottom will prevent the lights from sliding off and make it faster to wrap the lights, as well as make it a little easier to zip tie, because there's something that's not really going to move, because you have more axes to anchor those zip ties onto. We'll see. Here we go. It took me a while to get them squared up. I did a kind of a poor job on the first one, so I had to redo half of it. So if I did this right, this should just sit. Doing this with one hand. Just kind of drop in there, like that for storage. And I'll grab this other one. Fit it on the side as well. Drop it in there. So that should be about perfect. I think I will probably make some smaller boxes. I like how they're rectangular, but they're all rectangular, and so I think I need to make some cubes next to set on top so they don't all look the same. But I think that's going to work pretty well. Just a little bit of scrap left, so I'm going to make a little teeny tiny box, 6 inches cubed. See how that looks. Boxes look like they're coming along okay. Need to find some lights, but these are gonna look pretty sharp. Gonna let them sit out here for another day, put on a final coat, let them harden a little bit more, and as soon as lights come in, we'll wrap them up. It was a little too windy out to record with the microphone on, sorry, but it's looking pretty good. We're gonna get the controller fixed up, get those boxes put together. You can see that the controller is starting to work, except there's new audio, so stay tuned for part 2. I think it's gonna look pretty cool.